event organized by Stanford Conscious Living Club, the Wellness Club of Stanford University. And we have here with us a very special guest who's going to give a talk on artificial intelligence, emotional intelligence, and spiritual intelligence. So before we start, may I ask you a quick question? So how many of you have used some form of artificial intelligence? It could be OpenAI, ChatGPT, any form of in last 1 month. Okay, most of you. So how many of you have used your own intelligence, your own brain in the last 1 month? I have used, like occasionally, not every day, but some of the days I have used. But I don't know how long we will need to use our own brain. Just to give an example, so when I was told that I am about to introduce the speaker, I thought that why use my brain? Why don't I give a prompt to ChatGPT and it can tell me how to introduce for this talk. So I give a prompt to ChatGPT how to introduce a speaker on a talk of XYZ. So ChatGPT gave me a prompt. Welcome everybody. Then in this day and age, OpenAI, like artificial intelligence have done XYZ. However, we also need emotional intelligence, blah, blah, blah. In addition to that, we also need spiritual intelligence, blah, blah, blah. Very, very, very ChatGPT. But that was not exactly my style. So I had to use my brain a little bit as well. ChatGPT is still not there. How you can capture a person's personal style, the particular emotion. It's not there, but I am very sure very soon it's going to be there. It's going to be very personalized. It can talk exactly the way I talk. So then, do we need to use any emotional intelligence or our own intelligence at all? Then do we need to use our spiritual intelligence? Where are we heading to as a human race? Do we need to connect to a higher power or think of humanity in a broader way? So we don't know. So maybe Himanshu, our speaker today, can give us some insights where we are heading to and how we can coexist human intelligence and artificial intelligence and spiritual intelligence. So let me introduce our speaker today, Dr. Himanshu Asnani. And he is a Stanford graduate, and we know that just 2 weeks back we had another Stanford graduate. And just like our friend ChatGPT, we are also a little bit biased. Maybe one day we will have a speaker from Berkeley, but that day is not there. So Himanshu completed his MS and PhD from electrical engineering, and after that he has worked in a couple of research organization here, and he also had his own startup, EdTech startup. And later on, he moved to India and he worked as a full-time faculty member at TIFR, Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, and he also worked. He also was a visiting lecturer at Stanford and UW. And right now, he is an author, translator, and researcher. And he has his own book here. You can read. You can buy that. It's he's showing that book. It's a collection of short stories about spirituality in modern context. So maybe he can talk about his book more later on. So without spending any more time, I'm gonna pass the mic to him. So Dr. Himanshu Asnani with his talk on AI of different sorts.
I just thought the talk was over because ChatGPT answered, right?
Yeah.
So I'm very glad to be here after quite some time. These are familiar fields for us since 2009 when I joined the MS and PhD program, and I was student and then was a lecturer. So we did quite a bit programs here, and now it's a different feeling to be standing on this side. So thank you for coming, and my great gratitude to the organizing team here. Sundar is there, Archita is delocalized somewhere there, and Ashish, Konika was announcing, and this wonderful team who cooked. And I thought I will eat later on because I may start sometimes jerk, belching, so that's not good. So I'm very grateful. What I'll try to do today is present some framework kind of interlaced with my journey also as I interacted with these three areas. And then we open it to discussion. You're not here for clear-cut answers. Things are hazy, right? Things are not black and white in general. But I would like to present some framework for your consideration, frameworks which can be even empowering. And we'll deal with the issues, whether machines have emotions or not, etc., etc. But beginning with, I have to say, see, machines are already having their own brain. Okay, so people are familiar with some of these, right? Movies, web series, novels can be great. They can open our minds, and oftentimes they use high imagination to point at things which might otherwise not be pointed at. How many of you have heard the name Kazuo Ishiguro? Huh? Nobel Prize in Literature. His novel was converted into movies like Remains of the Day and Never Let Me Go, etc., Oscar awarded. And he recently came up with the book Clara and the Sun, in which a young girl engages with a robot. So, well, robot is made quite advanced in that movie, however, in that book. However, certain other pointers are thrown, like how humans engage with the environment. So like that, this engagement with AI and other such topics are really stretched sometimes in our movies. And the robots, I mean, Turing test is like a kindergarten test. Everything passes Turing test. But I think Guru also mentioned that, and I will also mention it in the beginning of the talk, that maybe let's discount these movies for a while, at least for the purpose of this talk. They have a purpose, they result into catharsis, they help us understand some things. But when the rubber meets the road, as they say, maybe we have to discount them a bit. So we'll start with that assumption. Okay? So artificial intelligence. Now, it's not that artificial intelligence has just picked up. People were trying about mimicking human intelligence even before 2000s. They were developing algorithms like neural networks. How many of you have heard about neural networks? Now, she asked the question, how many of you used AI, right? How many of you have studied AI? And how many of you have taught AI? Okay, good. So that gives me a sense of the audience here. So neural networks were developed to mimic our brain process, but it was only, very fake resemblance. Science or the computer science went on its own and developed some blocks of algorithms called neural networks. I'll explain about it a bit. But they were very slow. The traditional algorithms were already beating them. However, the inflection point came in 2012, around that time, when they had performed this ImageNet competition, which is basically classifying. You get bunch of cats, labeled as cats. Bunch of dogs, labeled as dogs, etc., etc. Then you have to learn them, and then you will be thrown an image which is unlabeled, cat or dog. So these are the classification tasks. Earlier, traditional algorithms were doing better. But what happened in this kind of decade, or the current decade or the previous decade, there was also a growth in silicon industry. High power, miniaturized, everything is there now on the fingertips, isn't it? You have even AI engines on our phones. So that led to Konika, come here and do something.
I'm gonna report the talk.
Okay. We need humans also. So, so let me continue. So what happened for this talk, in the inflection point happened, the silicon industry helped. And
recording in progress.
Always go back.
there, just click on. looks like I have to do manual. This is giving me some issue. Okay, and then it just progressed and progressed. We heard of things like Jeopardy game, in which IBM has a machine or the system and it beat the current winners. So what was happening as a result of silicon growth? The algorithms were going deeper and deeper. Earlier they were shallow. So you see here, say this is the input layer, you give an image. What does the algorithm do? It just extracts out the feature of the image. You know, if you give a human face, then it will figure out where are the ears. One layer will figure out where the ears, one layer about the mustaches and the beards and the noses and things like that, and then it will reconstruct a representation and tell male, female, cat, dog, etc.